You know, have you ever looked at the patterns in art or architecture or even just in a garden and wondered if there's something more going on? What if they're not random? What if they're actually a map, a secret map to our deepest beliefs about what happens after we die? Let's get into it. So, take a look at this. It's a gorgeous, incredibly detailed Persian carpet, right? But what if I told you that's not just something pretty to put on the floor? What if it's actually a blueprint for another world entirely? Okay, let's start unfolding this map together. I think you're going to be pretty surprised to see how an entire worldview, an entire cosmology, can be woven right into a single object. So here's the big idea. This carpet wasn't just decoration. It was designed to be a portable paradise. I mean, think about it. In a world that could be really harsh and chaotic, this was a way to bring a perfect, ordered, beautiful space with you. You could literally sit inside your own private garden, even if you were in the middle of a desert. And the word itself totally tells the story. Our word paradise comes from an old Persian term, paradisa. And what does it mean? A walled enclosure. That's it. In a vast, dangerous world, the safest, most amazing place you could possibly be was inside a protected garden with walls for safety, trees for shade, and water for life. The whole concept of heaven started as a very real physical place. So what happens when a safe, walled garden becomes your culture's ultimate ideal? Well, that idea doesn't just stay on the floor as a rug. No way. It starts to shape the entire world you build around yourself. And this is the key to it all. The chahār-bāgh, which just means fourfold garden. It's a very specific design, divided into 4 quadrants by water channels, usually with a beautiful fountain or pavilion right in the middle. Now, this wasn't just about good landscaping. This was a physical model of the cosmos, a perfectly ordered, small-scale heaven right here on Earth. And this is where it gets really cool. You can see how this one powerful idea just echoes everywhere. First, you see it in the lived space, the actual physical garden you can walk through. Then, you see that exact same layout in the domestic object, the carpet on your floor. And then, you see it again in the visual arc, in paintings of important people. It's the same map, over and over, just translated into different forms. But these designs weren't just some abstract intellectual exercise. Oh no, they were engineered to make you feel something specific. That symmetry, those repeating patterns, they were designed to create a deep sense of calm and rest. The flowers and all those intertwining vines, that's about love and connection. All that abundance, that eternal spring, that's about hope. And those borders, the walls, they gave you this profound feeling of safety from the chaos outside. Okay, but what happens when a culture's focus shifts? What if the driving force behind the art isn't the beautiful promise of paradise, but the terrifying, absolute threat of its opposite? Well, the art tells the story instantly, doesn't it? On one side, you have harmony, order, the peace of a garden, and on the other, it's just pure chaos. Collapse, frightening, grotesque figures. The entire emotional goal of the art does a complete 180. It goes from inspiring hope to creating absolute gut-wrenching fear. And you see these landscapes of fear all over the world. Just think of the Last Judgment scenes carved right over the doors of giant Gothic cathedrals, showing the damned being dragged off by demons. Or the totally surreal, nightmarish hellscapes of Hieronymus Bosch. I mean, wow. Even in China, you have these 10 courts of hell scrolls, which detail all the punishments with this kind of terrifying bureaucratic precision. This is art with a very clear message: behave or else. All right, so we've got eternal bliss on one side, eternal damnation on the other. But a lot of traditions imagined a third option, not a final destination, but a journey, a place of cleansing, of transformation. Dante Alighieri, in his Divine Comedy, gave us one of the most powerful images for this idea ever. He imagined purgatory not as some kind of dungeon, but as a mountain garden. And each terrace you climbed was a step of cultivation, of rebalancing your soul. So yeah, it's a place of struggle, for sure, but it's also a place of hope and upward progress. And this idea of a transitional, in-between state, it pops up in so many different cultures. In Tibetan Buddhism, there's the bardo, which is this incredible journey of consciousness, often visualized as a really complex mandala. For ancient Zoroastrians, there was Hamstagan, a kind of middle place for souls whose good and bad deeds were perfectly balanced. Each one has its own unique, beautiful, artistic symbol for this process of becoming. So, okay,
we've got these incredible, super detailed maps of the afterlife all expressed through art. But why? I mean, why did entire cultures pour so much energy into making them? Why did they matter so much?
This is really the heart of it. This art wasn't just for looking at. It was a kind of social technology. It acted as an inner governor. You have to remember, in times when there weren't strong police forces or state control, the vivid promise of an amazing paradise and the terrifying threat of a horrible hell, well, those were incredibly powerful psychological tools for keeping people in line and reinforcing a society's moral code.
And you can literally trace this arc across history. It goes way back to ancient Egypt's judgment of the dead, all the way to the medieval peak, where these ideas had a massive influence on society in both Europe and the Islamic world. But then, starting around the 1600s, with the rise of science and more secular governments, the direct power these symbols had over people's daily lives started to weaken. So at the end of the day, it really comes down to this kind of cultural equation. A society's main focus in its theology is directly mirrored in its art. Cultures that are heaven-heavy, you get art of order and calm. Cultures that are hell-heavy, you get art of fear and chaos. A focus on purgatory gives you art about struggle and cleansing. And cultures with less focus on an afterlife, well, they tend to create art about finding harmony in this world.
You know those old maps of heaven and hell? For a lot of us, they faded. Their power to really govern our behavior has diminished. And that leaves us with a final, and I think, really important question. What are the invisible maps that guide our world today? What are the promised paradises we're all striving for? And what are the hellish outcomes we're taught to fear that shape how we live in the 21st century?